And we are now recording. I am Austin Light with American Demon Comics, and I'm joined by Brandon with Dismay Comics, and he has been super friendly, very cordial, and supportive of everything, and I'm trying to return the favor. We're
Thank you.
looking to do a regular podcast, probably about once a month, and see how it goes from there. This is our first episode. It's probably going to have some hiccups, have some awkwardness, a whole assortment of issues that may arise, but we're going to give it a shot. All right, Brandon. Um, I've got some topics down, and I wanted to see what we could uh, get out of good, helpful content and be like a source for people to learn in different ways, not just about being independent in a business, in a creative business, but being having some life lessons along the way.
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
so what's some like uh, prior podcasts? Like you've done some podcasts already. What's like the prior feel that you've gotten out of podcasts? Um, maybe some hits and some misses.
When it comes to like being on a as a guest on someone's podcast, I I do like talking about my books because usually when I'm a guest on a podcast, it's like promoting a comic that's coming out or whatever it may be. But I obviously that's the part of the reason I'm on. But I do like talking about more than just like my comic or the thing I'm advertising or whatever at the time. Because like I like comics. I like diving into comics as well as the
Mm-hmm.
making of comics, the surrounding world of comics, such as various studios, Marvel, DC, the bigger indie studios, the smaller guys like us. Like I love like just talking about and digging into like comics and geek culture. So the thing I do like going on podcasts and promoting, advertising my comic, but like it's not. It sounds bad. It just shows I'm not a good marketing person. I almost kind of prefer to talk about like other things related to
Yeah.
comics, and then my little advertisement can piggyback on that. I only
Right.
say that because I've done so many podcasts about my comic, like promoting my comic, to where like I want the content for each of these videos, these different channels, to be different rather than like it's the same. Uh, it's like an interview, and then you watch another video and it's like the same set of questions or whatever. Not saying that happens often. I feel like this year, in terms of like the shows I've been on, it has been more varied, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I look at it as more than just a me thing of promoting my comic, but also like what's good entertainment for these podcasts. Like
Right.
aside, because
Well, I was gonna say that's like the nugget of like what makes for an interesting podcast is to
yeah,
have just kind of life experiences. That's been an experience that I've had going to conventions and watching voice actors. No voice actor has the same route that they took to get to being a voice actor. And they also have so much fun in telling the little backstories that they've had,
yeah,
all the experience that they've had in other industries, and it's and they're always so funny. There's some that are just hilarious, um, and or just interesting to hear, listen to. So making sure my mic is picking up because it's not purple sometimes when I'm talking.
Oh, I got you. I'm
So
able to hear you though, so you're
okay,
good.
good. Um, but like getting to hear voice actors and people that have a different experience than me just talk about things is really valuable, and that's why I gave that kind of preliminary uh suggestion when we first started.
Yeah, and I think that's why people nowadays, compared to 15 years ago or whatever, are so inclined to seek out and listen to podcasts. Is a lot of times it's something you're interested in, but you want to hear like different takes or whatever it may be on whatever topic. You can also be like comedy podcasts. Like I love some comedy podcasts, just like hearing various stories in life. Like
Hmm.
sometimes I relate, sometimes it's like I don't relate at all. This person's like super rich, but it's still like a good story, stuff like that.
Yeah,
Where even though you as the listener compared to the person talking might not be able to entirely relate or your living situations or life is way different than that other person's, there's still enjoyment and entertainment of it. I don't listen to it all the time, but like Joe Rogan Experience, like
hmm,
obviously Joe Rogan, hundreds of millionaire, but you can still listen to that as well as you're not entirely listening for him. It's oftentimes a guest.
right.
And like, I don't know, like, I say all that to say basically we're all varied, we're all different, but there's usually something that attracts you or gets you into hearing this person, whoever it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Um, well, I could go on about the influence of different guests that have been on Joe Rogan, and uh, Andrew Huberman and Lex Friedman, just these brilliant podcasters. But I'm going to see if we can get into the next question now. This initial podcast will probably be a lot about our comics, um, and I wanted to ask you, where did it begin? Where did your uh, well, I guess just give the story of when of that question, what it means to you. Where did it begin?
So I'll go back to like when I started making comics. Like I first thought about making comics like around 2018. I can't pinpoint specifically when in 2018, but around that time I thought about making comics. Before that, I was writing screenplays. I was in the nursing program. Like I had like 2 semesters left and was like absolutely miserable. Like the last year of that was awful. I clap and cheer for nurses that are truly in it because I
Hmm.
it's a valued work, but it just wasn't for me. It was, yeah, I didn't relate to like us leaving classes or whatever, and one of them or a bunch of them still wanting to talk about the nursing stuff because I was like, we're done with class. Let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the movies that came out or whatever it may
Hmm.
be.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have a passion for it. I didn't have a passion for nursing. I was in it for strictly uh, decent pay and job security because nurses
Yeah.
are always needed. Um, there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to have a passion in whatever you're going to do, especially if it's going to be like a career type field. Because what I had in mind. Was this going to be a career? I'll retire as a nurse. I was miserable, and that last year of me doing it was just constantly rattling in my head of like, I want to quit, but when I what I'll feel like a quitter when I do.
Hmm.
So eventually, I did quit though. There was a quitting point, getting out of the nursing program, like withdrawing from that. And at that time, like it was kind of one of the lowest points because I felt like a quitter. I was like oh my gosh, like I feel like I've let a lot of people down, like people that have supported me along this way. I was
Mm-hmm.
just 2 semesters away from graduating, and yeah, I just felt like a quitter. And at that time, as I was thinking about what I would do, uh, like getting a job or as a career field after that, as I was thinking that, I still wrote screenplays at the time, but it was like short scripts. It was like no more than like a 30-page, 40-page short film script. And I was like, I want to like test myself, like push myself to write a feature length screenplay. And I want to do it within a set time. So around that time, it was like early October. I was like, I want to have this done by the beginning of December. Feature length screenplay, at least the rough draft. I want the rough draft to be done by early December.
Mm-hmm.
So I set that goal as I was looking for jobs. Luckily, I had some money saved up. As I was looking for jobs, I would go to McDonald's and like sit in McDonald's, connect to their Wi-Fi, and just type away.
Yeah.
People watching, I'd also be typing away, and I had an idea, and the idea was the Gallows Man, like kind of one of the first things. This is before it became a comic. The idea was the Gallows Man, and I was just typing away at that, and in less than 2 months, I think like a month or month and a half, I had the rough draft done, and it was one of the best feelings ever because
Mm-hmm.
it was that low point of Brandon, like just all kinds of stuff in my head. I won't try to dive super deep into that, but like just feeling like a quitter and like needing
Mm-hmm.
to prove that like no, I'm not that. Like this was a healthy decision. Um, one moment, let
Okay.
me put something in the oven real quick.
All right.
Okay. If you hear a beep in the next minute, ignore it. I accidentally turned the oven off and then had to turn it back on, but I put the stuff in there. Um,
Okay.
so with the comic journey, so I wrote out rough draft of Gallows Man. Eventually, had the whole thing written out, and had it completely done, edited, sent it off to film contests and stuff. All while I was writing more scripts, and like got a bunch of great feedback from it, which helped refine it even more.
Mm-hmm.
And then early 2019, that's when I really wanted to get into making a comic. I was heavy into reading comics at that time. I was studying on how to make comics, like all the ins and outs of it, because I still wanted to do filmmaking, but I was like, some of these ideas just won't come into fruition in terms of film because it's too big in
Mm-hmm.
terms of money or whatever it may be. Whereas comics, it's a lot more conceivable.
Yeah.
Like
And it can
whatever an
segue.
artist, yeah, whatever an artist's page rate is,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever it is, it's a lot cheaper than this giant film budget, basically.
Mm-hmm.
As well as it lives longer. Like comics, I think artwork and stuff like that in comics lives longer compared to movies. An example of that is like Avengers Endgame, one of the biggest movies of all time. Great movie. The end fight scene is epic. I will say though, give 20, 30 years, I think there's going to be some critiques on that end fight scene, specifically for visual effects, CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Because as time goes on, you look back at previous stuff, it's like, oh, like I didn't realize it looked like that. Like not
Yeah.
saying it's bad, but it's like,
Yeah.
oh, like so
Oh, I've
so
done that before.
so that will happen with these visual pieces that like that in-game fight scene probably costs like tens of millions of
Mm-hmm.
dollars just for that fight scene, but it won't truly live on
Well,
as
I wanna play devil's advocate
okay.
in this topic here, because
Yeah.
but let's take um, Jurassic Park for example. the first Jurassic Park. I'm. How do you? How do you like? Uh, I they made it in such a way that was so good that it's like there are some like there's a little bit of campiness to some areas of it, but like it was convincing and it's still like fairly convincing. Like it
Well,
doesn't feel like it's aged, if you
that's
know
the
what I
thing
mean.
is even if the CGI like slowly ages or looks age, if the story's good, like you won't mind. Like in 20, 30 years, if there's bits and pieces of that in-game fight scene that like it's like, that didn't age well, you're still, yes, it might have aged. You're still not going to care because
Mm-hmm.
the story is so good. Like there's great movies that have like bad visual effects or whatever, but you put that behind you because it's like the story was so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I don't want people. I love Jurassic Park. I love Jurassic Park. The visual effects still hold up very well. There is a little bit of dating to it,
Mm-hmm.
not compared to stuff back then. Like it blows everything else out of the water back then. Like because
I
all
still
other
I I think that there are. Do you need to get that?
no.
Okay. I think that there are. I don't. I think that the more analog way that they made those effects, like having the animatronics and everything, was like very special. It was like a very special time in movies.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure I watched the behind the scenes of Hellboy 1, and there were just some amazing like little tips and tricks that they did to make they had like some people in costumes that had some of the hellhounds open up their jaw,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like it translates so much better to me. And I don't, maybe that's an opinion, but I just don't think that that stuff ages like horrendously.
No, and I'm
But
not saying it ages horrendously, but
yeah, yeah.
you do see things here and there that, not saying dated, but like if you showed it to someone right now, let's say a
Mhm.
15-year-old right now hasn't seen any of those older movies, they've just been seeing like 2010s and up movies. If you show that to them, not saying specifically Jurassic Park, but there's great
There's
movies
a lot.
like Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Fantastic movie. Hold on. Okay. 6 minutes till it beeps again, and that's the last beep. And I'll let you know like a minute when there's a minute. What I'll do is
Okay.
I'll go like this. That means there's 1 minute.
Okay.
So
15-year-old
in
watching
yeah.
Empire Strikes Back.
So Empire Strikes Back, great movie. And again, what I'm about to mention doesn't discount the movie. The story is so good that as well as if you're into art and artistry, you love this type of stuff. But like the Battle of Hoth, like the miniatures, like the slow can't remember what it's called, but where motion, not motion capture, I can't even think what, it's not
Mhm.
claymation, but that
Stop
type,
motion.
stop motion. Thank you, stop motion. Like you can see,
Yeah.
but if you enjoy art, like that's so cool to see. But I could see how it's like, that looks like a little dated.
Mhm.
Still a great movie. I still love that scene, like the whole Battle of Hoth,
Yeah.
including the AT-ATs walking like that and stuff. Same thing with like the RoboCop, like the robot that's walking, like that stop motion and stuff. Like somewhat dated, but still is very cool. And the
Mhm.
story's so good that like you look past that if you see that as a problem, which I don't. I like stop motion. I like seeing that in movies. Um, so I mention all that where bits and pieces of that may seem dated
Yeah.
to people. Whereas with comics, if you're able to do art right, There's a specific type of comics I'll say do look dated. I'll mention that in a second. If you're able to just like do art, like
Mm-hmm.
create art, it stands the test of time. Now, some writing, maybe not so much. You can look in the '60s era, like as good as Spider-Man is and was during the '60s. Stan Lee loved to put a bunch of word text on a page.
Mm-hmm.
He liked covering up some of that pretty art with how much he likes to narrate, how much Peter Parker is monologuing in his head. Stan loved
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. It's a little bit dated nowadays doing that, but I still like that stuff. But still, like the art form still holds up very well to where it lasts decades and decades and decades. The only form of comic art I'll say doesn't last that type of test of time is whenever they did like the computer generated art. Marvel specifically. This was
Mm-hmm.
in like the early 2000s, late 90s. It's not great. A lot of it looks like Nintendo 64 graphics, but for a comic. It's not great, but overall, most comics and comic art holds the test of time. So I just love the media for that.
All right. Um, I was gonna try and go off that subject a little bit more, um, but let's see. There's so much more resources that we can use for art now that I think it kind of goes in the other direction as opposed to movies. Like if you think about the resources that are given to cinematography, there's a lot of good that can come from it, but I also think that the access to CGI and using like just drowning in CGI is not the answer.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
um, as with art, hand drawn, that is like I think AI has a place. I think AI is great and it's going to be a wonderful tool. Um, but that's just it. That's just it. I think the AI is just going to be a tool. I don't
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to. I wouldn't.
I don't want to see a 100% AI comic. That's
Right.
just me.
Hmm. Because I think it's fascinating. Like if it could do that, it would be very fascinating, and it could potentially be inspirational. But it doesn't have the same effect if you look at it and say a computer made this. It's
Yeah.
like it's like, oh, okay, cool, I guess. It's like
As
it is
well
cool,
as
but it's not like
yeah.
as impressive. It's suddenly kind of diminished in that avenue.
Exactly. Okay. Sorry for the listener. If there have been any pauses in this episode, it's my fault. I've been making mac and cheese bites for my sister. So they are now done. They're out of the oven.
we
She has
we
them.
we all appreciate your devoted love to your sister.
Thank you. But yeah, with AI, the talk of I am okay with it as a tool, like you said, specifically a tool. And when I say that, I could see it be used for artists for like when you're trying to create reference to draw from.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be very useful for that. Um, but I don't want to see like a page or like a bunch of pages or a whole comic where it was strictly you typed in the prompt and you just got that image from the AI and
Mm-hmm.
that's like what has been published, what has been printed and stuff. And I'm okay with it being used as reference, but being printed and published And the biggest thing, sold to people
Right.
when it is a prompt and it's all AI art. I'm not down for that. I know there are
Well,
communities that make the AI comics and they just like it's a free comic, you can read it.
hmm
I honestly don't care, but like that's okay. Like if you're not
I'm
making a profit from it.
I'd be against like I don't care if I don't care if it's sold. If people want to buy it, they can buy it. But I it needs the disclosure.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
All right. So my next topic was to see and ask what your current employment is. What is
Yeah.
the lifeblood right now?
So I am a youth minister. It's the go from nursing and then go into youth ministry.
The
I've
youth
been doing
minister.
that. Yeah, yeah.
That is
It's
authors.
it's it's
The
odd.
gallows
Yeah, yeah,
man.
yeah. With something like the Gallows Man or Tales from Town City. Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things. But yeah, that's the thing is like people hear Christian or they hear youth minister, they think like humor can't be
hmm
derived from a religious
Oh
person.
no, I know
Doesn't even
humor
have
can be
to.
derived.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a Christian. Just any religion. Like people may
hmm
see like, oh, like that person because they're religious, like they can't have humor or can't have like dark themes that they write about or whatever. It's like no, like that's a part of life. Like whatever religious text you read, I'm going to mention the Bible because that's the one I read the most. There's a lot of dark things in the Bible. There's a lot of humor in the Bible.
Yeah.
Like there's like yeah, as well as just in everyday life, like that we experience as humans. Like you encounter this stuff. So don't go like blind to it all of a sudden. Like no, like you can talk about this. You can write about this stuff. You can write about some of the absurdities in life
hmm
and make it comedic. Like I find that fun. But yeah, so I've been a youth minister since December of 2017. So this December will make 6 years, and I absolutely love it. Like it's one of those things where I love making comics. I have a passion for comics, but also have a passion for youth ministry to where it's like it's not one of those things where when I come home and I'm making my comics, I'm feeling like this is my passion. Like that
hmm
thing, that's just what makes me the money, so I can do this passion. It's like no,
Yeah.
I like both. Like I don't want to like quit comics, but yeah, it's not like I hate my day job basically.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So I'm I was employed at a gym um for over 5 years, about 5 or 6 years, and then I was able to go to college and have flexible hours at this gym, and then when I graduated, I had my graphic design uh, uh, degree, and I was ready to go into the world and get that job. And I wasn't really in the route of uh, graphic design personally. Like it wasn't appealing to me. It was kind of fun to make a logo, and it's kind of fun when you work in that kind of creative team. But to be like on my own, and especially be in a local work area that's not as open to a creative mindset, um, that reality set really quickly. I got a job as a graphic design assistant at Paragon Pictures, and when I did, um, I was excited about it, and there was like opportunity. My foot was in the door and everything, and I worked there for a year, and I started and like while I was working there was it was really nice. There was some perks to it that were really good. Like I was secluded. Um, I got to problem solve with some of the printers. There was an Epson printer. There was a lot of Epson printers, but there was some smaller ones, and then there were some ginormous ones that were like canvas printers. So this was a wall decor place. So we printed a lot of stuff that was like generic wall stuff, like
Oh yeah, yeah.
prints and paintings that would go on a wall. So they faked canvas paintings by by printing the canvas out of one of the printers. Um, and that was interesting. I had to help my graphic design, the actual graphic designer. I was under her, and I got to like do some color corrections and do the photography and stuff during my work there. But for the most part, I was just printing stuff, counting it, and putting it nice and neat on a little rack. And I was listening to podcasts constantly. Like, I was so secluded and so uninterrupted. I could listen to whatever any podcast for as long as I wanted.
Yeah.
Um, and I was listening to Joe Rogan one day, and he was like, "Man, and those people that get stuck in their jobs and they're just working that 9 to 5 and they hate their life and blah blah." And I was like, "Oh man, that's me."
he's speaking to me right now. Yeah,
um, the primary thing was that I was looking ahead at all the other graphic design positions, not graphic designers, but other positions that would be technically ahead of me. And I ultimately looked at all those positions and I said, 10 or 15 years from now, do I want to be in that position? No. I don't want to be in that position. So I made the executive decision to quit. I was going to go in with a safety net. That safety net was my friend that's an insurance adjuster. And I was going to do like photo labeling for him, and he was going to pay me really well. He was going to pay me pretty good. But I quit the job and I started working for my friend. And as an independent contractor, his business just fell off the radar for a season. And he was struggling to get me work and a paycheck consistently because he was struggling to get himself a paycheck consistently. So I had to go back to that gym job. And so the fun fact is that I was a personal trainer before I went back to college.
Oh, good.
So I really had a passion in training people in fitness and stuff like that. And it's like when I dive into something, I dive into it really hard. And that's what I did with fitness for a long time. And I got that job back. It was due to inflation. It was paying me more than where I had quit.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, it
That's
blew
awesome.
my mind. They were like struggling to, like, before I left that gym, I was like, I don't have to leave. If you can pay me this much,
You're right. Yeah.
and do this for me, I'll stay. And they were like, we just can't do it.
Yeah.
And then I come back 2 years later, and they're like, here's more than that. So I was like, okay. Great.
When did you come back? What year did you come back?
Last year.
Okay, so was it early last year?
It was about this time last year.
Okay. I didn't know if like the COVID times affected it, only because I think about like how
I
like
was working there during
everyone
COVID.
was wanting to go to the gym. Like I feel like post COVID, you've had a bunch of people like striving to go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know if that affected like them being like, no, we need you, like come back, please.
It might. I mean, just the general work shortage, and I already had like so much experience. I had over 5 years experience working there already. I already
Yeah.
knew how to do like when I sign up members, there's several different steps I have to go through, like looking at people that have insurance plans that support a gym membership. And there's like 3 or 4 different insurance plans that we support that do that. And they're all a little bit different. Um, and then, but I worked there during COVID. And that's actually the year that I had quit because I see December 2020 is when I graduated. And I had got a job offer at a print media place, and I had worked there for about 3 weeks before I got that other job offer at Paragon. And so I got to learn in just that short amount of time. I got to learn how like big big window decals are printed, and how they're cut out. Like there's this huge conveyor belt machine, and like it's a cutter, and so it'll read these dots that are along the print, and if it has the plans of that print installed in the computer, so it just has to read where the dots are, and then it automatically knew where the print was on the conveyor belt, and it just went down and just started cutting out everything, and then it would roll it to me and I'd peel it off. There was like big window prints for Jack's, there was huge banners for Six Flags that we did, and then there was a bunch of little local businesses that did stuff. So it was fun. As a graphic design uh, student to, I guess, graphic designer technically, graduated. So uh, to see all how that was like made and everything, and then
Yeah,
I
kind
learned
of
a
the
lot from
behind the
Paragon.
scenes of it. That's
Yeah,
nice.
but ultimately that wasn't where I was going to be,
Yeah, yeah.
and so I came back to the gym last year, after about 2 or 3 months of struggling with my friend and his insurance thing. He got a lot more work when the hurricanes hit, and he went down to Florida, but he was like, these Florida like guidelines and stuff are way more strict, and like it's way out of like the ability for me to teach you and also do it at the same
Right.
time. So I was like, it's okay, man. I got this new job, or I got my old job back, and it's paying pretty good. Um, so I got a part-time position there starting out. They just needed somebody part-time. Well, one of the very long time people that was working there, long before I even worked there the first time, um, she was retiring. And so she retired, and I got her position as secretary. And this position is perfect because, like, I'm pretty familiar with computer stuff, and I know how to scan, and I just input members into the system, make sure everything's right, and like literally my main part of my job takes about a total of 3 or 4 hours in the week.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I just man the desk, and as people come up, I answer their questions and I get them memberships, sign them up, and stuff like that. But there's a lot of downtime at the desk, and the place is always clean.
Yeah.
We have an out. It's part of a hospital, so more people. So there's like a janitorial system that people come and clean at night. Some of the part timers do a lot of the cleaning, and it's like it's not rigorous or anything. Um, so the place is usually clean, and I just got to keep up with stock on stuff. But I get to work on all my comics.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
In
Uh,
between that downtime, that's awesome. To
yeah.
you're at work, you are doing your job, and then yeah, like with any job, there's that little bit of downtime. So that's cool that you're like obviously I know you work on them when you get home, but it's not a all at home thing. So that's
Hmm.
cool.
Well, I really don't work on them a whole lot at home. I'm trying to figure out stuff like like what we're doing right now. I want to do more of that,
Yeah, yeah.
and I look at I do things associated with it.
Well,
Um,
I was about to say, even if you're not like literally drawing or writing at home, there's stuff related
mhm.
to comics that you could be researching or you're finding out about. Because yeah, it's not like when I get home and I want to do something comic related, I'm writing or working with an artist. So a lot of times it can be those other things, where it's just like, like whenever I first started out, like I want to, this is the most boring part of making a comic, but I want to find out about UPC barcodes,
Yeah.
learning about that boring stuff. Like,
hmm Um. So it's that job has been a huge blessing, in different regards. I have very nice overseers. I have very good, like, the directors of the gyms are very uh good to me. They're like, as long as you're doing your stuff, we don't really care what you do. So,
that's awesome.
um, there's not, so that thumb isn't on. There used to be a thumb there. I'm just speaking, be metaphorical about it, but there used to be a thumb on me at that gym. She has also, I'm saying so much. They had also moved on to something else.
Right.
They got another opportunity elsewhere. So uh, some of the long term employees there inherited the director position.
Nice.
It's been very, very smooth.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but yeah, a part of it. Hey, how much time do you have? Are you good all the way up to 7:45?
Yeah, yeah. I'm good till
Okay.
7:45.
I might keep some of these other questions off to the side because this youth minister thing is very, very interesting.
Yeah,
um,
it's something that I've only had like one other person uh, kind of ask about that, and I remember this was like back in October of last year or October of 2021. I think it was 2021. It was someone I had met on another podcast slash show, and he invited me on his show because through backstage talking, I was talking about how I was a youth minister, and he was like, "That's really interesting." So where he invited me on his show, and like I knew he was he's not really like subscribed to a specific religion, but he takes some from Buddhism, some from Christianity, various stuff, and we just like had like a 2 hour talk. It was like
mhm.
a great talk, but like yeah, we had a 2 hour talk, and we weren't planning on anything specific. Like we were like, maybe we'll talk about comics, we'll talk about this or whatever.
Yeah.
The whole talk was just like a religion talk, and I was okay with it. But I was like, this is interesting. Your comic, your channel is like blank comics, and I was like, and we're having a religion talk, but it was awesome.
um, well, I grew up here in the South. Let me preface this. Where have you grown up?
So I grew
Like,
up in
not, you don't have to be
South.
specific, but
Yeah, I grew up in South Alabama, specifically Bruton, Alabama. It's like, uh, let's see, from Ozark. That's a good little point. It's about like 2 hours southwest of Ozark. Like it's close to
okay.
Pensacola, kind of like
Wow.
maybe an hour from Pensacola. Bruton is. I grew up there, and then like starting high school, my family moved to Navarre, Florida, which is it's Florida, but it's also kind of just an extension of South Alabama. And I've lived in Navarre ever since. Like even
hmm
after moving out, going to college, all that stuff, made my way back to Navarre.
Gotcha. Okay, so I too have grown up in North Alabama, near Huntsville. So
Oh,
I've
okay.
been under a highly religious context throughout my life. Um, different ups and downs in that. Um, so I went to a Baptist church for a long time, and I made many
Baptist friends and everything, uh, and it was about as typical as you could think of as a Baptist church. I actually went to two different ones, but again, more or less the same. And then I joined this uh, youth group in high school. I want to say it was high school. Um, Either about the eighth grade, ninth grade area, and this youth minister was a minister not really affiliated with the churches he was under. He was just kind of like using the churches to be the anchor for having a facility, and then the youth group was completely different. We called ourselves the Rebellion, and man,
Was anyone a Star Wars fan?
huh?
Was
Oh,
anyone a Star Wars fan?
he was a
Okay.
big Star Wars fan.
Okay.
He didn't derive it from that. It was some verse I can't recall. I want to say it was in Romans, but it was about
Yeah.
rebelling against the world or something like that.
Oh yeah.
You know, don't
There's
be of the
that,
world.
but him being a Star Wars fan did play into that a little bit.
I had no
I go and
idea.
tell you.
I'm sure it did. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. Um, and I'm still friends with that youth minister to this day. Um, it was just a very niche experience in this youth group. So some of the let me try and track one of the old first sermons, first lessons that he did for us. The story of Noah.
Mhm.
So he went back into the story of Noah and was like, so when they say this in the Bible, they don't mean that, they mean this. And we were all like, what? And he's like, yeah, it's awesome. And we were like, yeah, it's awesome. uh, and then it's hard to like get my details dug into there because I don't know how much I'm gonna like be vulgar in a religious context and also in the mixed media of this podcast situation on YouTube. I don't know what all that means still, but it was very interesting. He was always like kind of pointing out like instead of the glory and the greatness of some of these Bible characters, he was like they were very flawed. Like
Oh yeah.
here's where
Yeah.
they were very flawed,
Well,
and
that's
what
the
he talks
thing.
about.
Yeah, that's the thing is like you grow up at least like elementary school age and stuff. You hear like how great a lot of these characters are, and a lot of them do great actions. There is like greatness
Hmm.
that is brought by some of their actions, but like a lot of them are, like you said, very flawed. A lot of them make like saying an oopsie doopsie or a mistake would almost be an understatement to what they did. Um, but yeah, that's what's interesting about the Bible. Like one of the things interesting for me is like as I got older, like realizing like oh like there's more relatability to these like what you in elementary school like how the teacher would like put them on pedestals, and for some of
Hmm.
the things they did it's understandable, but like you're almost like you see them as like this idol, which shouldn't be the case, but you like see them, it's like wow, but it's like no, like they had their flaws, they had their
Hmm.
mistakes, even as leaders for God, like there were some mistakes.
Yeah.
David was a good king. He made a very, very big bad mistake. Yeah, so
Well, I might try and like think of some stories. In fact, I might just have that youth minister be a guest one day
there
between
you go.
us.
Yeah,
It'd be very entertaining.
yeah,
But I'm friends. I'm still friends with him. I'm still friends with his kids. Um, they have been my best friends like ever since I went into the rebellion, and they don't see it as as glorifyingly as I do. Um, but they had a lot going on behind the scenes with their whole family. I would not dare discuss, but for me, in that uh, youth group, it was just so refreshingly different. Um, to get into the history, to get into the meanings, um, to not make it be a guilt fest, for it to not be a turn or burn kind of thing, or just to be kind of a sugar coated thing,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
That's the thing. Like, you see or you saw a lot with various churches. I'm not saying like all churches, and when I say church, I mean like the congregation, that sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Um, like in the 40s and up, like 40s to 80s, it was like fire and brimstone. Like it was like oh my gosh, like crap your pants, like
Yeah.
like you're going to hell. Uh, um, and then in like the more recent time, like past 15, 20 years, there's been churches that, like you said, kind of the opposite, are sugarcoating a lot of things, where it's nothing but like grace
Mm-hmm. Forgiveness
and
and yeah.
goodness and forgiveness. Like there's a balance to it. Like the
Mm-hmm.
Bible, like when you read it, there's that balance. You see both sides, but you don't lean on one side and forget the other. Like it talks about both. So there are frustrations that I've seen
Yeah.
here and there with like, no, like that's not what all the Bible's about, or on this side, that's not what all the Bible's about. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a balance there. It's important to address it, not to scare your people in I mean like fear can be a good thing, depends on the context, but like scaring people or giving them this false happiness and not turning away from whatever needs turning
Mm-hmm.
away. Like there's just various things.
Well, what was fascinating about the youth group is it it drew people like me that were, to say the least, like rough around the edge. I really wasn't like a bad kid or rough around the edges, but I was very much into an alternate scene. I wanted to be in that realm, I guess you could say. Um, and but you know, it brought a lot of people that really would be, you know, the the people that Christ would want to walk around and help.
Yeah,
And I don't know, that really showed out to me. Now, given there was a lot of people that came and went, um, but there was like a very um, soulful aspect to it in different regards. But there were times it got off track, um, kind of in general, not so much as like yeah, there was tangents and stuff that we would get on because we would get so excited or have questions, but
there were spans of weeks where we just came over and we hung out. There wasn't word to it, or very much of it, and I think that site kind of got lost. But it was interesting to say the least to see the alternative group come to a place of church, but not church. It's very strange to word.
Well, it's like it's you hear it a lot nowadays. It is true, and I know some people see it as kind of cheesy, but like the thing of like the people are the church, whereas like the building isn't the church, the people are the church, that sort of thing. Where like you're not in the church building, but you guys were together, even
Mm-hmm.
if it was in someone's house or someone's apartment
And
or whatever it
that's
may have
another
been.
thing. It changed. The location changed on
Yeah,
several.
yeah.
We had a great location for a long time, and then somebody related to one of the other, like they were related to one of the one of our youth members going got strung out on some drugs or something. We still don't. I still don't think that we know the full story to that. But he came and started like while everybody was away. It was like in the middle of the night or something. This dude came up and was started torching the place, like just throwing matches and stuff. After that, we were basically kicked out of that church. It wasn't really any fault of us, but just because I guess we were related to,
Uh,
um,
hmm.
associated loosely to that person that did it, it they it reflected bad, and so they had to let us depart. And we went through several churches looking for a spot, but so many of the churches were just not up for what the group was about. And once that was visible to the church head, church councils or whatever, they would basically fire. Like it was, if you got rid of our youth minister, you got rid of all of us. We went with him. It's kind of culty. I'm gonna be real. It was
No, I
kind
get
of
it. Yeah.
weird, but um, a lot of us didn't see it that way. And um, again, there was a lot going on behind the scenes for the kids, and that wasn't apparent to anyone. So um, we had fun though, and I think that there was a lot of relief for them uh, to be in that. There was a lot of relief for a lot of people in different situations, but anyway, let me think. Do you have anything more to add?
Well, so let me see. So around, I'd say like around what year did I guess the rebellion break
That's
up?
what
I
it
guess.
was through
Yeah.
everything. Which years did it happen?
Well, like whenever it started
When did it
dissipating, kind of.
begin? Or when did it end?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see. I want to say around 2014-ish.
Okay.
I think it went on for about 5 years. And we kept a select few of us kept trying to ignite the fire again, but it was just hard pressed because there was it was hard to find a church that was like willing to put up with a bunch of alternative kids. But it kind of put me in a situation where there's been a lot of recent developments in like my spirituality. Um, I would say that I'm a Christian in a Jordan Peterson fashion, if you're familiar with him, where I believe the essence of the Bible and the messages and the tools and a lot of what it's trying to convey. Even weird far out stories that just seem absurd at first, if you like get the actual like meaning out of it, then it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I would say that that's where I'm at. And I think I'll wrap it up, but I think we might expand more on this because it has a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah.
influence on what I'm doing with the uh, webtoon that I'm working on. Which is why it also fascinated me that you were a youth minister. Um, so we will call it here and go ahead and give us your social media, what you want to plug.
Okay. Yeah. So, my name's Brandon Ingram. Kind of head publisher. The name I go under is Dismay Comics. My publishing company is Dismay Comics. It's a one man band in terms of like the publishing aspect, but I
Mm-hmm.
do work with a ton of amazing artists. A couple of great and amazing letters, and not saying there aren't other great and amazing letters. I'm saying I've only worked with a couple great amazing letters. Like there's only two letterers I've worked with, so both have been amazing. Um, so yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Dismay Comics. That's DISMAY Comics. Check out the comics I'm working on. Currently, there's a Kickstarter for Tales from Town City #1, which is a comic that is just a fun time. That's the best way to kind of describe it.
Yes.
Is just a fun
I
time.
read
Like,
that one.
thank you, thank you. I love me some serious comics, like some comics that get you thinking, spiritually or just in terms of like society today. Like Tom King is one of my favorite writers in terms of comics. Like he writes a bunch of stuff for DC. Um, that being said, I don't want to always like feel sad and down and out when I'm reading. I don't want to always see how bad war is with all of Tom King's stuff. I love seeing that. Great stories, but I don't want to feel down and out every time I read. So I don't know. I like
So
to
Tales from Town City is a great remedy for that, and everybody
exactly.
should check that out.
Yeah, it's a fun little time. Just harkens back to the golden age of comics, specifically like the silly campiness of golden age comics, as silly as like circumstances can get. It's anthology, 3 different stories set in the Gallows Man universe, and you can kind of just like dive in, just have a fun time. Like if you want to dig deep into it in terms of the reading, sure, there's like underlying themes or stuff that I talk about. Like the Gallows Man, big thing is like desensitization to violence, but you don't even have to like dig deep into that. Gallows Man can just be a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
But I ultimately like specifically with these comics to just be like turn your brain off, or not entirely turn your brain off, but just like escapism a little bit. Sometimes you need that, and varieties, various things in your life. Like we go to the movies a lot of times to enjoy a thing, but also it can be like a break from a thing you're currently going through. So I like to provide that with stuff like the Gallows Man and Tales from Town City.
All right, Brandon. I appreciate it. I'm Austin Light. I have a webtoon called Envy on Webtoon, the app. A lot of people are not very familiar with Webtoon and how it works, or at least my friends have not been. But if you go to the App Store or whatever App Store you use, look for Webtoon, you can install it. And it's kind of like a platform like YouTube, but it's for comics. And my comic, Envy is on there. It's for free. You can read all of it. I'm trying to get at a pace of 1 episode per month at the moment, and I'm hopefully going to bump that up to 2. You can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1.50 a month. That will get you a little credit shout out. You'll get to join the Discord and get updated and discount codes on the website. A company I'm under that I have also have made. I plan to release several more titles in the future under this company is American Demon Comics. You can find AmericanDemonComics.com, find merch, links to the Patreon, links to social media. I'm also on TikTok and Instagram as American Demon Comics. So yeah, go check us out. Go check out Brandon, and we're going to be back next month. Thanks for joining me, Brandon.
Thank you, man.